Jake Paul is actually having an MMA fight, as you guys have probably seen. It is everywhere right now. Jake Paul has signed with the PFL. He is going to make his MMA debut. He's been talking about it for a while. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about who he can fight, and we're going to talk about the matchups and whether or not I think he will win. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's talk about Jake Paul. So first off, who is Jake Paul going to fight? Jake Paul himself said that he offered Nate Diaz a fight, and again, I'm sure you guys have seen this, so we're going to touch on it very quickly. He wants to fight Nate Diaz in a boxing match, and then 6 months later, he wants to make his MMA debut against Nate Diaz in the PFL cage. I think that's an incredible idea. I think Jake Paul is an absolute genius for doing this. I'm not too excited, though, because Jake Paul, he's probably still going to do this thing. And again, I'm allowing him to prove me wrong. Maybe he's going to take this seriously. Maybe he's going to actually compete and win a championship. But I have a feeling he's just going to fight guys like Nate Diaz. And long story short, we're going to talk about the matchup now because I think this leads into it. I think Jake Paul is going to absolutely stop Nate Diaz, not only in boxing, but I think he'll stop him in MMA too. I think he is going to absolutely annihilate him. And I was talking about this with my friends, and one of my friends was like, there's no way. Nate'll just take him down. Nate'll submit him. I'm like, Jake Paul is such a big, young, hungry, I don't even know how old he is, but he's definitely not, he might not be at his prime yet. He is a hungry, young, strong, big guy. Nate Diaz is not Nate Diaz anymore. Nate Diaz was honestly, he was overrated from the beginning. Nate Diaz will be significantly smaller than him. His power, and Nate Diaz didn't have any power in the first place. Who was Nate Diaz taking down in the cage? Nate Diaz isn't going to take down Jake Paul because he hasn't taken down anybody except like a gassed out Conor McGregor, right? Every single time Nate Diaz is a submission, a lot of times he was on his back. And this is where like the Nate Diaz fans are just absolutely so delusional, and just hurts me to be a Nate Diaz fan because honestly, I'm a Nick and Nate Diaz fan. I love both guys. I think they're great, and I love what they do for both sports. But you can already see it everywhere on Twitter. They're just the Nate Diaz army, the Nick Diaz army guys, where it's like, oh my God, time for Nate to humble Jake Paul. And it's like, man, this is going to be the most embarrassing thing for Nate Diaz we ever seen. He might get flatline KO'd. Like, not just boxing, in MMA too. I don't care what Nate Diaz tries to do. I don't care what technique he has. Yes, obviously he has the technique. Obviously, Nate Diaz is old. He's past his prime. When's the last time Nate Diaz looked good in a fight? His cardio isn't even good anymore. Nate Diaz is not the same guy that he once was. And Jake Paul is just bigger. He will outpower him. I don't care what Nate Diaz tries to do. You try to get him a guillotine, it's not happening. I think Jake Paul is just too young and athletic. I think he'll be able to outdo everything about Nate Diaz. He's going to win his MMA debut. He's going to win the boxing debut, or not debut. He's going to win the boxing fight with Nate Diaz. Then he's going to win his PFL debut in MMA, and he's going to be like, yep, I told you, Dana White. This is right. I'm here. I'm going to fight anybody. And then we'll have to wait and see whether Jake Paul will actually fight anybody or not, because there are already fighters throwing their names in the hat, wanting to fight in the PFL, right? And that's honestly cool to see. PFL is getting a lot of attention. I think it's a cool organization. I know off the top of my head, Anthony Pettis wanted to come in, but even then, if you fight Anthony Pettis, when's the last time Anthony Pettis has looked good in a fight? I want Jake Paul to actually take this. I don't want to say take it seriously because it's smart what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's making his money. He's getting clout. He's patting up that record. It's smart what he's doing. Why wouldn't, like, if I was in his spot, I'd probably do what he was doing too. But I just don't see him taking on top contenders. Like, I don't even know, like, the PFL roster, to be honest with you, but still, the guys that he's fighting, like, he will beat Anthony Pettis in a fight. Anthony Pettis is too small. I don't care about his technique. It's the same reason for Nate Diaz. Jake Paul's going to stop him, man, and it's going to be crazy. He's going to talk more crap, and then maybe, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I just imagine him just calling out another retired fighter. Maybe Ben Askren will come in. We'll get that Ben Askren MMA fight, and I think, actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think Askren said that he would come out of retirement to fight Jake Paul in MMA. I could be wrong about that. I remember hearing that somewhere. Imagine. And then he'd kill Askren too. But I don't know, man. Jake Paul's a genius. He's a very smart guy. It's going to be really interesting to see how this whole thing flows out, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. This is where I'll leave it up to you guys. What do you think about the matchup between Nate Diaz and Jake Paul in both boxing and MMA? Who do you think is going to win? I think Jake Paul's going to smash him, but this is where I'll leave it up to you guys. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you are new to the content, please consider like button to help the channel a ton, and subscribe if you're brand new. Check the description down below for links to all of my other channels. If you want to hear more fight talk about anything MMA related, let's hit that notification bell. Thank you so much again for watching, everybody. I will see you in the next video. Take care.